The room was glowing with golden Christmas lights, laughter echoing through the grand hall as glasses clinked and soft music played in the background. It was supposed to be a night of celebration, but for Elena, it was the night her world shattered. Standing in the corner, her trembling hands held a pen. Across from her stood her husband, Daniel, cold, impatient, and surrounded by his wealthy, judgmental family. His mother whispered just loud enough for everyone to hear, "She was never good enough for you." Tears filled Elena's eyes, but she said nothing. "Sign it," Daniel muttered, sliding the divorce papers closer. "Let's not ruin Christmas any more than you already have." A few guests turned to watch. Some pitied her. Others smirked. Elena looked around the room, at the people who had treated her like she was invisible for years. They thought she was nothing. Just a simple woman who married into money and failed to live up to their expectations. Her hand shook as she signed her name. The moment the pen left the paper, a single tear fell onto the document. "Done," Daniel said, snatching the papers. "You can leave now." Silence fell as Elena slowly placed the pen down. She took a deep breath, and for the first time that night, she smiled. A calm, quiet smile. "Actually," she said softly, "I won't be the one leaving." Confusion spread across the room. Before anyone could react, the grand doors opened. Every head turned. A group of sharply dressed men in black suits entered, followed by a distinguished older man with silver hair. The atmosphere shifted instantly. Even Daniel's father straightened up nervously. The man walked directly toward Elena, and bowed his head slightly. "Miss Elena," he said respectfully, "we've been looking for you." Gasps echoed. Daniel frowned. "What is this?" Elena turned toward him, her eyes no longer filled with tears, but with strength. "I suppose," she said calmly, "it's time you all knew the truth." The older man stepped forward. "This young woman," he announced, "is the sole heir to the Laurent global empire." The room froze. Daniel laughed nervously. "This is some kind of joke, right?" But no one else was laughing. The man continued. "Her grandfather, the late billionaire founder, kept her identity hidden for her protection. After his passing, she inherited everything." Elena looked at the shocked faces around her, the same people who had humiliated her moments ago. "You all thought I needed this family," she said quietly. "But the truth is, I was giving you a chance to be mine." Daniel's hands began to shake. "Elena, I didn't know." She raised her hand, stopping him. "No," she said firmly. "You didn't care to know." The Christmas lights still sparkled, but now, the warmth in the room had turned cold. "You chose status over love, pride over loyalty," she continued. "And tonight, you lost everything you thought you had." She turned to the man beside her. "Prepare the acquisition." Daniel's father stepped forward in panic. "Wait, what acquisition?" The man replied calmly, "As of tomorrow morning, your company will be bought out." Shock, fear, regret, all at once. Daniel dropped to his knees. "Please, Elena, don't do this." But she was already walking away. This time, no tears. Only power. As the doors closed behind her, the same room that once made her feel small now felt suffocating to those inside. And for Elena, it was the night she lost her husband. But reclaim her empire. The snow fell softly outside, covering the city in white. But inside Daniel's family mansion, chaos had begun. Phones rang non-stop. Lawyers rushed in and out. And panic spread like fire. "What do you mean we are being acquired?" Daniel's father shouted, his face pale as he slammed the desk. "By WHO." The answer came quickly. Laurent Global. Silence. The same name that had shaken the room just hours ago. Daniel stood frozen, replaying everything in his mind. Elena's tears, her silence, her final smile. That smile now haunted him. This can't be happening," he whispered. But it was. Within hours, their company's shares began to collapse. Investors pulled out. Deals were cancelled. Everything they had built over decades was slipping away. And at the center of it all was Elena. Meanwhile, across the city, in a towering glass building glowing against the night sky, Elena stood in front of a floor-to-ceiling window. Calm, composed, untouchable. Gone was the quiet woman they once ignored. Now, She wore power like a crown. "Miss Elena," her assistant said gently, "the board is ready." She nodded and walked into the conference room. Dozens of executives stood up instantly. Respect, fear, loyalty, everything she was once denied, now stood before her. "Let's begin," she said. A screen lit up, displaying Daniel's family company. "Phase 1 is complete," a board member explained. "We now control 62% of their shares." Elena's eyes didn't flicker. "Proceed to Phase 2, she replied. "And Daniel?" She paused for a moment, then calmly said, "Leave him to me." The next morning, Daniel stood outside the towering headquarters of Laurent Global, his clothes wrinkled, his pride shattered. He had tried calling her. Hundreds of times. No answer. "Sir, you don't have an appointment," the receptionist said firmly. "I don't need one," he snapped. "Tell her Daniel is here." Moments later, the elevator doors opened. Elena stepped out. Every eye in the lobby turned toward her. She walked slowly, confidently, until she stood right in front of him. For a moment, neither spoke. Then Daniel broke. "I'm sorry," he said, his voice cracking. "I didn't know. I didn't understand." Elena looked at him the same way he once looked at her. Distant. Unmoved. "You're right," she said quietly. "You didn't understand." Tears filled his eyes. "Please, give me another chance." A long silence followed. Then she stepped closer. "So now you want me back?" she asked. "Now that you know who I am?" Daniel hesitated. And that hesitation was his answer. Elena smiled faintly, but this time, it wasn't warm. It was final. "You didn't lose me because I was poor," she said softly. "You lost me because you were." Daniel frowned. "What do you mean?" She leaned in slightly. "Poor in loyalty. Poor in love. Poor in character." Each word hit harder than the last. "I would have given you everything," she continued. "But you chose to treat me like nothing." She stepped back. "And now, you get exactly what you deserve." Security stepped forward. "Escort him out." "No, Elena, please," he shouted, reaching for her, but it was too late. He was dragged away. Broken. Defeated. Forgotten. Days later, news headlines exploded across the country. Laurent Global takes over rival company. Mystery heiress revealed after public divorce scandal. From humiliation to power, the rise of Elena Laurent. And Elena. She sat quietly in her office, watching the city below. Not smiling. Not celebrating. Just peaceful. Because this was never about revenge. It was about respect. And she had finally taken it back.